directed by Ryan Belgart. We are talking the Jurassic Games Extinction. And this is actually a sequel to a 2018 movie called The Jurassic Games. A B-movie sci-fi that I actually quite enjoyed, I must say. And here it's sequel. So, let me give you a kind of catch-up of this mythology. So, this is a kind of science fiction B-movie that takes place at some point in the near future, and a kind of similar concept to The Running Man in a way. At this point, criminals or people who have committed murder are on death row basically compete on a kind of television program, and this is the top television program of all time, in a series of gladiatorial games where the winner will get their freedom, basically. However, in this concept, rather than fighting actual gladiators, they're actually strapped into a kind of a VR kind of AI computer system, and their minds are transported to this virtual world where they'll fight dinosaurs and the like. And if they die in the game, they will die in real life. Now, that's your basic setup. In this sequel, we have a situation where they are preparing for the next season of this TV show, and the winner from the last games is kind of encouraged to come back because they want this big night, because he was actually an innocent man, as it turned out. And we have these kind of techies working in the VR world, doing maintenance in this kind of VR world, and things happen, and we end up, instead of a bunch of criminals playing the games, we get a group of sort of techies basically in there, and kind of executives who are meant to be doing this kind of admin work inside the game, but they actually end up having to compete. And you've also got this winner from the last games kind of pirating his way in there to play as well, and we get a couple of other sort of people end up coming in the game. We get like another person who was involved in the previous games, plus the son of our main hero to give him motivation. So we get this kind of group of mostly kind of innocent people this time in the games, and the games seem to be running amok and kind of being controlled by a kind of rogue AI, and our competitors, now all of whom are innocent rather than the criminals from the original film, have to try and survive. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. Now, let's discuss. Now, before watching this, I had a quick look at what the feeling was online, and fairly negative, I've got to say. A lot of people comparing it to the Jurassic World movies. This is like the Jurassic World meets Tron if they had a schlocky baby for like a 50th of the budget. I don't think people realise that this is a significantly lower budget movie than the Jurassic World films, and it's not really fair to compare them. Here on this channel, we are used to watching the straight to streaming, straight to DVD style movies, so I'm perfectly fine with the lower budget sort of side of things, and it's not really fair to compare them to a mainstream film. So with that in mind, I've got to say I really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the first movie. I mean, who doesn't like a dinosaur with kind of laser guns attached to it, fighting a giant mech? I mean, who's not gonna love that? Come on, people. This is pure sci-fi hokum. It is off the wall silliness, but boy is it fun. I mean, it's all these kind of like ridiculous kind of concepts, and the idea that it's all taking place in this kind of virtual world basically means you can do whatever you like. You don't have to worry too much about how did these dinosaurs, come to be, and all of this, and why is there kind of laser guns? It doesn't matter. The whole concept is you are watching this kind of this TV show that is meant to be this sci-fi show. So you don't have to kind of expand. You can have all these crazy ideas and it'd be fine. The other kind of conceit that I like is, and they even make a joke about this in the movie, is that because all of the action takes place within this kind of like VR world, the dinosaurs don't actually have to look, you know, especially realistic, because they're meant to be, you know, virtual constructs. Now, they actually make a joke about it, saying they're mostly realistic, but I've got to say, I mean, this is low-budget CGI, but it has come a long way from the Sci-Fi Channel days, people. It's actually pretty impressive, and there is a lot of it. And like I say, we get all sorts, various different kind of dinosaurs. We get kind of speeder bikes, we get mechs, we get like laser guns, we get, you know, all sorts of kind of like fun visuals here. And again, with the proviso that we appreciate that it's a low budget, I have to say I was kind of quite impressed with the VFX here. I think they actually did a really good job. And how this movie's kind of structure is, there's different sort of zones. Now, one zone, the first zone is kind of like they're on these kind of, you know, indoor sort of Return of the Jedi style speeder bikes, running away from kind of raptors and T-Rexes and things. Then they're kind of like a gladiatorial combat where our contestants turn into dinosaurs and have to kind of like a face-off. Then we kind of get like a maze full of raptors and things. And then we get this kind of snowy mountainside where we have our bad guy character riding a huge woolly mammoth and things like that. So there's some real kind of fun things. And again, I think the effects were good. When you consider the budget, it is not fair to compare this to a mainstream Hollywood movie. It just simply isn't. It's never going to be like that. So if you're watching this thinking, oh, it's not as good as looking as Jurassic World, no. I think most people on this channel do understand that, however. So there's some fun kind of like action set pieces. I think the actual VFX here are pretty good. I actually kind of really like the concept, and you know, it's a goofy concept, but you know, we've seen these sort of things before. So I've mentioned the kind of the Running Man and obviously the original kind of movie and various other sorts of like, you know, hunting humans for sports and all that, the Dangerous Game, all of the rest of it. Dating right back to gladiatorial combat from the Romans. This kind of thing has been happening for millennia. Let me just tell you, or at least the idea of it has. So, you know, I actually think it's a fun concept. You know, the VFX look good. There's some exciting set pieces. There's some variety in this. And I kind of quite like the things like the set design and all the rest of it. It was all pretty good. And we try and have more sympathetic characters. Now, I do have an issue with the characters, which we'll come on to in the negatives, but the idea being that in the original movie, there was one innocent guy, the rest were all kind of like actual criminals. Here, they're more or less all innocent, apart from one person who is kind of like our, you know, human bad guy, so to speak. So it gives that these days, no one here deserves that they're going to on the death penalty. So you're rooting for all of them, or at least that's the intent. So you know that I guess you are. It gives you more, you know, sympathy, I suppose, with our kind of protagonists here. So that, you know, it's quite fun. There's a variety in different kind of dinosaurs. It's not just raptors and T-Rexes, and we get a few other ones as well. So, you know, there's a lot to enjoy in this kind of silly, fun sci-fi concept, I have to say. You know, it's fairly well paced. What doesn't work, as I've kind of mentioned, I think some of the characters here, even though they try to clearly make our characters more sympathetic compared to the bunch of criminals from the first movie, outside of our main character, I've got to say, this is maybe where the movie falls down, is that none of the characters here are particularly kind of memorable. In the first movie, I think you had a little bit more individuality from the different characters, even some of the cannon fodder characters, let's be honest. But in this one, they kind of seem like more of a homogeneous mass of just kind of like red shirt techie people. And even when we try and get this our main character's son transported to this kind of, I mean, he is like the most wet character you have ever seen. You know, really not a particularly kind of a character you're rooting for. Let me just kind of say that. So yeah, I think the biggest downside of this one is I think the actual characters needed to have a little bit more charisma, a little bit more personality, a little bit more maybe variety in them, and things like this, a little bit more oomph. It's not helped either by the overly hokey dialogue. I mean, this was true in the first movie, admittedly, but the dialogue is a little more hokey, and I think because of we have maybe not as an interesting bunch of characters in the first movie, it kind of seems that much more, you know, clunky at times, I have to say, in regards to the kind of the dialogue sequences. We also, I think the movie gets a little bit bogged down in the kind of the real world, where we're having these kind of discussions about ratings, and everything's all about the ratings, and then the kind of the mechanics of how the show is working, and the kind of the politics of what's kind of going on, and all of that, I think, ends up kind of slowing the movie down just a tad. And there are sequences in the movie where the movie does slow down just a tad, almost as well. And one thing the film does is it has, if you have seen the Iron Man films from Marvel, where you see that in-camera kind of view, I think the movie cut to that a little bit too much, because we have these sequences where we're having these, you know, dinosaurs fighting and all the rest of it, and then we kind of keep cutting back to the faces of our people in the VR and stuff, and it's like there's maybe a little bit, because you never really feel like you're totally, you know, you're watching these battle sequences, and then all of a sudden it will cut, and you think, oh, I wish they would do that a little less often, so you can kind of just get involved in those little bit longer sequences and stuff. And again, some of the kind of the acting, the faces that people are pulling and all the rest of it, it's a little on the goofy side. But look, I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the first one. It's a fun, silly, but enjoyable science fiction concept. I had a blast with it. There you go. If you're wanting more serious fare, then maybe look elsewhere. It is a 7 out of 10 for me, though. I liked it. There you go. 7 out of 10, what were your thoughts? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.